Let's get started with a breaking update with the Ministry of Home Affairs has just tweeted saying that it is now decided to reserve 10% of the vacancies in the recruitment of the CAPFs and the Assam Rifles for the Agniveers. This is a tweet posted by the Union Home Minister's office saying that the Home Ministry has decided to reserve 10% vacancies for the recruitment of the Central Reserve Forces when it comes to Agniveers. For them, the MHA has also decided to give 3-year relaxation age beyond the prescribed upper age limit to the Agniveers for the recruitment and CAPFs and Assam Rifles. Further, for the first batch of Agniveer, the age relaxation will be for 5 years beyond the prescribed upper age limit. Let me go across to Nikunj joining us this morning. Nikunj, good morning. We are looking at more and more measures that are now being taken up by the union government to allay the fears.
Well, absolutely. This is quite clearly an attempt by the government to damage control. This is quite clearly an attempt by the government to allay the fears, as you are saying. This is quite clearly an attempt by the government also to assuage the feelings of the youth, which they think have gotten seriously hurt and hit in terms of their job prospects getting battered. So significant relaxations have now come in. Remember, before we start about relaxations, you have to keep in mind that other than the railways and the Ministry of Defence, which are of course the two principal recruiters for the government of India, the paramilitary services themselves are a huge recruiter, big recruiter. The total strength, comprehensive strength of the 5 paramilitaries would run into somewhere close to 10 lakh men. And that 10 lakh number is mostly comprising Jawans, mostly comprising the constabulary, as it is called there. The very few is the officers' corps. So quite clearly that's a significant number. And if the Ministry of Home Affairs is saying that we are completely reserving 10% of the vacancies for Agniveers, that would mean roughly 1 lakh vacancies in the entire paramilitary forces structure. The 5 paramilitary that are there, the Border Security Force, the Central Reserve Police Force, Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force, and so on and so forth. Then you were talking about relaxations. Now, in the first year of Agniveer scheme rollout, the Government of India, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Home Minister says that they will give up a relaxation up to 5 years, which will mean that the usual recruitment age of a Jawan is now being breached in this case, because the usual recruitment age for a Jawan in paramilitary services also is 25 years. So in this case, it will go up till 28 years, which would mean the 2 years relaxation given by the Government of India, which is 23. Add to it 5 more years, which is 28. So, at the age 28, 1 lakh vacancies are reserved for people who are joining through the newly carved out route by the Government of India called Agniveers. That is the whole sum and summation of this announcement by the Union Home Minister this morning. So quite clearly, not only has the age ceiling been breached there in case of paramilitary forces, 2 years relaxation was already announced by the government yesterday. And now today the government is saying that we are reserving 1 lakh vacancies with the upper age ceiling of 28 years in the paramilitary forces, which, as I said, is one of the principal recruiters or principal employers in the case of Government of India, like the railways and the Ministry of Defence.
Right, but Nikunj, when it comes to this reservation that has now been pointed out, similar measures were also taken up when it comes to the respective state government in their police force. The government had also put out a 10-point defense of the scheme, assured that the recruits will not be left in the lurch. What happens now?
Well, yes, absolutely. But you see, I would say there's a big difference. One is that this recruitment of 1 lakh reserved vacancies at the upper age ceiling of 28 in the first year's case comes from the central government. And central government, as you would know, is, and as our viewers would also agree, is the preferred mode of employment, particularly in the hinterland areas, which are now seeing the protest mostly compared to the state government jobs. State government jobs are obviously seen as priority number 2 by the employees who want to become the government employees. So central government jobs are coveted jobs, and that is why this makes a big difference from the government's perspective, and also people who are wanting for a central government job. Do keep in mind that in the paramilitaries also, the pension structure has changed to the new pension scheme, but however, it is still a guaranteed pension, which is also a major bone of contention for the people who are wanting defense jobs. So that changes compared to the state police forces. And also, unlike being a state government employee, all of the benefits of the dearness allowance of the HRA, of the Central Armed Police Forces canteens, which is a big draw in the armed forces like the canteen service CSDs, are all available to the CAPFs, which are Central Armed Police Forces, the paramilitaries, unlike the state police forces. So the jobs in paramilitaries are people who are wanting to join the defense forces are probably, in all likelihood, the second most preferred jobs after the defense sector, after the Ministry of Defense, like the Army, Air Force, and Navy. So in that sense, these 1 lakh jobs with an upper age ceiling improved are certainly, most neutral observers would say, better than the state police force jobs.
Right, but Nikunj, if we talk about the 10% quota that already exists in the CAPFs, what does it mean for them? Would they have to undergo the training process once again?
No, under the existing set of rules also, there is a quota, there is a defense services personnel quota. My sense is that that is restricted to 5% of the total recruitment.
Nikunj, interrupting you, apologies for that. I'm told that Maruf Raza is with us on the phone line. Maruf, good morning to you. We're looking at further relaxations that have been announced by the central government. What value addition will it put in the ongoing Agniveer scheme, where the recruitment process will be starting in a few days now?
I've been saying from day one that the process that was suggested earlier hadn't been thought through and would need to be modified as we go along. We've already seen certain amount of concessions being announced by the government. One was that these people who would be rejected by the army in the long run would be absorbed, at least given preferential treatment for absorption in the Central Armed Police Forces. Now the 10% announcement that has come in, which is good news. But the bottom line is that when you take in 46,000 people, which is lower than what you normally took in for the army in earlier years, and you train them rigorously over a period of time, unless they themselves want to opt out of further government or military service, they should all be absorbed in some organization or the other, and therefore guarantees given that whether it's the armed police, whether it is other organizations of the government or even the state governments, they are trained people. The training in the military is of a higher standard than most police organizations and paramilitary forces. So there is no reason why they cannot be absorbed there. The military is not absorbing them after 25% being retained there is not because they are not good enough. They will not be absorbed because the aim is to cut down the size of the army. So if you can give trained manpower to the paramilitary forces or the Assam Rifles or even state police forces who have their own armed police wings or railway police, which is also armed, it is a good thing for the country that you're giving them trained manpower instead of them wasting time trying to train them and sift out their ability to take on a job where weapons could be used. That is the purpose, I think, in the long run, this scheme can serve. It is not just a question of picking up 46,000 people and retaining 25% and pushing the rest out onto the street, though those who will be stepped out onto the street voluntarily or otherwise will not be badly off. They'll have about 12 lakhs in cash in hand, tax-free, plus some savings from their salary because their food and stay, etc., will be free in that 4-year period.
But Maruf, does
and in addition to that, they will have
question still remains? Because if you're talking about the CAPF, it is around 10 lakhs strong and one of the largest employment generating agencies under the Home Ministry. But if we talk about the armed forces, does the uncertainty question still remain?
No, the question is that the CAPF itself would need more manpower because their people are also going home. So instead of them looking for manpower to bring them from outside, select them, train them, you're getting a trained stock from the military, which is got much more severe testing and training standards than the armed police force. Though armed police forces are not bad, but they are heavily committed across the country. And if you look at the UN mandated figures for police per citizen, India is desperately short of quality policemen for citizens. I remember in the last government, the Home Minister stating publicly that the requirement was to recruit 550,000 policemen to fulfill UN mandate for adequate security for citizens, and the government fell short by almost 50% because you don't get quality people. So here you're going to get quality people who can be absorbed. I don't see a problem whether today he is serving in the army, tomorrow he is serving in CRPF, and day after he is serving in Railway Protection Force.
Right.
He is doing national service, and that is what one of the motivational purposes of the youth was, that they want to serve the country. So get on with it.
All right. Maruf, thank you very much for your point of view. We are looking at more relaxations that are now being announced by the government in a bid to allay those fears, because we've been witnessing violent protests across the country. Let's